Oh, how the mighty have fallen. This week we reach the end of Saul's life, and I'd like to take some time to just look back and contrast Saul with David. And I think the biggest and deepest difference between the two, that stands out to me anyway, is how they approach God. Now, as you read this week, and if you see things that you've recognized in these passages from weeks before as well, go back and look it up again and notice how David relies on the Lord's guidance. And he particularly is interested in the high priest with the ephod. As you read, notice how often David inquires of the Lord. And how often have you seen Saul doing that? Saul does so, typically only in extremis. David does it routinely. When Saul does inquire of God, he often does so either indirectly through Samuel. Of course, when Samuel died, that was a huge loss for Saul. Or he does it in the wrong manner. Like we see him here before the Battle of Gilboa. He inquires of the Lord, but there's no answer from God. So what does Saul do? He goes and consults the witch at Endor, who summons the spirit of Samuel using some kind of necromancy, which is strictly forbidden in the law of God. And in the story, it's an illustration like you don't want to do that. The witch at Endor summons the spirit of Samuel, who delivers some really bad news. And he's very grumpy about being summoned from the grave. He warns Saul of imminent defeat and death. Death for Saul, death for his sons. Whew. Very grim passages here. Now, turning to David, you might be wondering what this ephod thing is. David is very keen to preserve the life of the high priest and his ephod. The ephod is probably the breastplate of the high priest. Here's a picture of it. You'll notice that it's made out of gold, and mounted in this gold are 12 precious stones for each of the tribes of Israel. And the high priest wore those tribes with him whenever he ministered in his vestments in the tabernacle of Israel. And with the ephod, there was probably a pouch or something containing the Urim and Thummim. These are small stones, and those Hebrew words are translated as lights and perfections, or think of it as revelation and truth. These were in some way, some mysterious way, a medium for God's guidance for the high priest for Israel. So in very challenging circumstances that severely taxed his wisdom, this is what David sought. Now, when Saul had the priests killed at Nob, remember we saw that last week, David sought out the lone survivor and was very eager to take him into his camp with his ephod and the Urim and Thummim. Now, I want you to look for instances when David inquires of the Lord, and typically he's asking questions for God's guidance. He often gets yes or no answers, which could be how the Urim and Thummim worked, like a coin flip giving answers from God, which would be nice, wouldn't it? We don't really know how they worked, but I think we're getting pretty close there. And I guess the big takeaway from today is that our Lord is accessible to us. He's communicating with us. He's giving us the comfort and strength, the wisdom and the guidance that we need as we navigate the rough roads that we have to travel in life. David did, and you can too. I hope you know that. And one of the best ways I know to learn how to do that is with Tony Stoltzfus's Metaformation material. There are several workshops which help us learn the skills of inquiring of the Lord without the ephod or the Urim and Thummim, and learning to deepen our intimacy with Jesus. It's a conversational intimacy where Jesus speaks to us. I've done all but one of those workshops, and I can tell you from deep personal experience that they have brought me through, they have sustained me, they have deeply transformed me through the really hard wilderness that I've been going through in the last 4 years. These workshops have been vital for me, and if you'd like to try one for yourself, just let me know. I'd love to put you in touch with Metaformation. So that's it for Monday, and I'll see you again on Thursday. God bless you all.